Hi everyone, it's Tom with the LEC preview of this week. We're heading into week 5 of the LEC, and this means that this is going to be the first week that each team is going to play each other again. Obviously, we had just rounded up the first half of the LEC Spring Split last weekend, as you can see in my recap, which I'll link above. And yeah, let's head into the predictions of this week. We start off with SK Gaming versus Schalke 04 on Friday, and obviously Schalke 04 came off the back of an 0-2 weekend, pretty rough time for them. While SK Gaming, I can't say I have been too impressed with them so far. Now, heading into the weekend, I do think that Schalke 04 has the edge over SK Gaming because, as we saw after week 1 of the LEC Spring Split, they recovered pretty quickly after losing a few games there and didn't really accept that, whereas SK Gaming needs more time to develop, in my opinion. I think that Schalke 04 overall also has better players in each role. If you look at the top lane, I think Broken Blade has been better than Janak so far. I think in the jungle, Gillies has been better than Tinks. Abadaga has been much better than Blue in the mid lane and in the bot lane. There is something to say that Treats has been playing better for Limit than Limit, especially if you look at comparatively to how much importance they've had for the team. But still, I do think that Schalke 04 is going to be trying to wipe away that 0-2 of last weekend pretty dominantly. And I do think they just have the better tools to be able to recover. So I will give it to Schalke 04. Then we have Mad Lions versus XL. And honestly, I really want to say confidently this is going to be Mad Lions, because I do think that there's value in having more dominant teams in the LEC than just the likes of G2 and Fnatic, such as we had last year. But Mad Lions is not looking too great at the moment. Obviously, they did have some starting up problems in the Spring Split last year as well, with adjustments to their roster. Coming in this year, they're experiencing it too. And versus XL, I do think that XL has a lot of room to improve when it comes to tackling their play overall. But Mad Lions is a bit flippy for me. Now, given how close this match can be, in my opinion, I think this actually might be the closest game of the day. Still, in the end, if you look at overall lineup and overall performance and go a bit by average performance, I would say that Mad Lions is the favorite in this game. Then we go to Astralis versus G2 Esports, and Astralis did give G2 a pretty tough time the first time they met in the split, obviously. Surprisingly difficult for G2 to close out that game. Now, I'm not going to say that I expect that to happen again, because I do think that Astralis, while they have, and I've been saying this ever since week 2 actually, have been making small steps towards improving, I still do think that G2 Esports should just easily win this. They might clown around a bit more, as you can see. They might make some wacky picks, some wacky plays, and just have a bit of fun. But in the end, I do expect G2 to win this pretty comfortably. Then we go to Misfits versus Rogue, and Misfits did pick up a win last weekend, obviously, and that's good for them to see. But it's hard to make an argument for them against Rogue, especially because Rogue gave G2 such an incredibly difficult time last weekend. So they are the undisputed second best team in the league at the moment, in my opinion. And I cannot see them messing up against Misfits, really. Then we have Vitality versus Fnatic to close out the game. Kind of the same thing as with Rogue versus Misfits. I do think that Fnatic has obviously been more volatile than Rogue has been. So there is more likelihood, it's likelier for them to make mistakes that could cost them the game. But they're playing against Vitality, and Vitality is just a team that has not found any way to punish their enemies whatsoever, whatever their mistakes were. So I cannot see any reason that Vitality would win this. Their team is a complete mess at the moment. They have no idea how to play the game together. Individually, maybe, but together they're just not finding it. They're going to need more time, obviously, with Crownshot as their recently subbed in bot laner against a Fnatic that might be inconsistent, but purely based on individual level should easily win this as well. Then on the second day, we have XL versus Astralis, and while I do think that Astralis has a decent chance here, if you look at their performance overall, I think they're definitely not the worst team, and with XL being like a 6th, 7th team in my power rankings at the moment. I think Astralis could have a shot at winning this. However, if you look at Excel, I do think that they realize better that all these games against relatively weak opponents they'll have to win in order to make it to playoffs. I think these are the games that Excel is actually going to prepare most for, or be at least most hyped for, or whatever you want to call it, most pointed to win or whatever. They absolutely will be full focus against a team like Astralis. And Astralis, I would like to say that they're also going to be full focus, but honestly, you don't know with this team. They one day will play extremely well against a top team in the league, and then next day they completely do nothing against a team such as Misfits, who prior to playing against Astralis looked incredibly horrible. So if you look at Excel versus Astralis could win, I think, if they get one of them funky drafts again, which they had, for example, against a team like Rogue, where they had the Skarner Thresh combination that worked out so well for them. So I do think that if they whip out something like this, they could find an edge, and if they actually play to their draft as well. But other than that, I do think Excel will win this. Then we go to Misfits versus SK Gaming. While Misfits did pick up a win last weekend, I do still think that SK Gaming is a bit favored. Obviously, both of these teams have not been very impressive so far. Yeah, I really wonder what's going on in Misfits Gaming, because they haven't had a designated playstyle, a way they wanted to play the game for weeks now already, and I have very little reason to believe that they will have now against SK Gaming, whereas SK Gaming, they're suffering a bit from the same problem, but I do think that most of their issues come from their players not being on the same wavelength when it comes to approaching the game. With 4 rookies in the lineup, that's obviously going to be difficult for them to get online and get into full shape so early. I think that this lineup, if they choose to keep it, will have its best performance by far in the summer split, where they could easily be a playoffs contender. But for now, there's a lot of development going on. That said, at the bottom line, SK Gaming versus Misfits, I guess I'll have to go with SK Gaming, but it's really a 55 to 45 situation for me, where Misfits Gaming has a stellar bot lane with Kobe and Vander. They have Resorg, who has the potential to be a great jungler. We saw Hirit, who had 2 great weekends back-to-back at the start of the split. And Veteo, I think, while after his Zoe performance he dropped off a bit, in the last weeks has been pretty okay. At least with the mid lane. It's just that Misfits overall was a bit of a mess. But yeah, I would say SK Gaming wins this. I just realized my camera has been out of focus for a bit. I don't know exactly how long for, because my camera is displayed on my second monitor while I record, so I can look more into the camera itself and look at the notes I have in front of me. But yeah, we're just going to continue as if nothing happened, but apologies for this. Rogue vs Vitality is the 3rd game of the 2nd day, and I have no real reason to believe that Vitality is going to amount to anything versus Rogue, because Rogue has just looked super clean, and Vitality has been the exact opposite of this. Then we go to Fnatic versus Mad Lions, and while I do think that Mad Lions has a real shot, I actually think this is going to be a very close game, much like Misfits versus SK Gaming and Excel versus Astralis on the day as well. I would have to give it to Fnatic in the end, and that's because they are already on a 4-game win streak, while their game against Astralis did not look really good. Their games against the likes of G2 and last weekend as well against like SK Gaming, Fnatic was super dominant against Excel when they had the rematch. They brought that fury, and I do think that Fnatic is feeling it at the moment, is recovering from that pretty bad start to the split. And yeah, I would say, though, again, that Mad Lions has a real shot. I think if their bot lane manages to stay afloat against the aggression of Upset and Hylissang, then they have a real shot. I think that a bot lane matchup here is going to be the most important one of the game. In the top lane, I do not expect much to happen unless Fnatic decides that Armut is like a major weak point for Mad Lions, and Selfmade tries to help Whipple all he can. But honestly, I do think that this is all gonna be decided mostly in the draft, and which team plays to their draft better. I would like to see a lot of aggression from both of these teams, because they have been playing pretty aggressively in the split so far, and that's always a treat to watch. Last game of the week is G2 versus Schalke 04. And yeah, match of the week, understandably so, because while G2 is the favorite heading into it, Schalke 04 obviously ended G2's undefeated win streak, undefeated streak or win streak earlier in the split, and was a surprise victor against G2, who in that game just didn't look pretty good, and Schalke 04 had everything online. Now, heading into this game for this week, G2, they had a lot of trouble with Rogue, but I do think that it's very fair to say that that was because they're just the two best teams in the league at the moment. I wonder if G2 is going to be fully focused against Schalke 04 because they realize, okay, we lost to them in the first half, so we need to take a revenge, or if they are going to take it a bit more chill, perhaps. I'm not sure how they're going to approach it. I just know that Schalke 04 is going to be full forces, and in the end, still, even though Schalke 04 beat G2, I really do not know in what scenario I would favor Schalke 04 heading into this game, or rather, when I would not favor G2. And obviously, that sounds to some of you maybe a bit unreasonable because G2 is going to have those int games every now and then. But it's really hard to predict when they're going to have this, right? They played, as I said earlier, with a lot of trouble against a team like Astralis even. So, and even though they didn't lose, they had more trouble with it than they probably should have. And since it's so hard to predict when G2 is going to have this, my default is always going to be, all right, they're probably going to win this. And against Schalke 04, the longer I think about it, I think they'll be poised to take revenge and win that game as well. So, those are my previews for the upcoming games in week 5. Let me know in the comments below which matches you are looking forward to, but also which predictions you have, because I'm very much interested in hearing your thoughts on the games that are going to be played. And if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more content.